You type a long paragraph, you press send, you wait, the screen finally glows. Okay, just one single word and a heavy dot. Your stomach drops, your fingers freeze, you immediately spiral. Are they furious? Did you push too far? Why are they so cold? You stare at that period, you panic, you desperately dissect every past interaction. You think you are completely broken, overly sensitive, totally insecure. But you are wrong. This tiny dot, this microscopic pixel, is it just basic grammar, or is it holding your entire fragile sanity hostage? I know that feeling. The emptiness hits when the screen goes black. You spend the next 3 relentless hours scrolling backward through months of chat history, desperately hunting for hidden evidence of their sudden hatred. You meticulously weigh every casual joke you ever made, relentlessly tearing your own memory apart. You ask yourself why a single grammatical mark makes you act like a paranoid detective analyzing a microscopic crime scene. Your prefrontal cortex sits there, completely aware of how irrational this behavior is, silently begging you to close the application and just go to sleep. But your fingers keep swiping up, dragging you deeper into a suffocating spiral of agonizing self-doubt. The digital glow illuminates your tired face as you realize you threw away your entire evening over nothing. EMP Tethias. You failed. You feel utterly insane, convinced that your communication skills are fundamentally broken and that your presence is a massive burden. You silently promise to never text them again, wrapping yourself tightly in a heavy blanket of preemptive isolation. You stare at the ceiling, feeling completely trapped by your own chaotic mind, hopelessness, total defeat. You helplessly watch your own brain erode every shred of social confidence you had left. Self-disgust, quiet agony. It feels like an endless erosion of your personal dignity, a vicious cycle where your own thoughts aggressively betray you and leave you paralyzed in the dark bedroom. But before you continue punishing yourself, listen to this. Listen to this closely. Imagine driving down a terrifyingly dark highway in the middle of a torrential storm. The windshield wipers are violently thrashing at maximum speed. The broken radio is aggressively crackling with chaotic news. The exhausted children are relentlessly screaming from the back seat, and you are desperately squinting through the blinding rain just to read a blurry exit sign. Total shutdown. This agonizing scenario perfectly mirrors the exact state of your prefrontal cortex at the end of a grueling 10-hour workday. This sophisticated region acts as the strict CEO of your consciousness. It is responsible for maintaining flawless logic, filtering out deep-seated social anxieties, and artificially regulating your fragile emotional stability. However, this premium harbor operates on a strictly limited budget of metabolic energy. Every single micro-decision you are forced to make from the moment your alarm clock violently wakes you up, choosing which professional shirt to wear, forcing a polite smile at a passive-aggressive manager, aggressively suppressing the urge to walk out during a pointless afternoon meeting, meticulously calculating your shrinking grocery expenses, relentlessly burns through a finite supply of biological fuel. This specific neurological phenomenon is clinically defined by cognitive scientists as ego depletion. You must understand that this is absolutely not a psychological weakness, a lack of discipline, or a pathetic character flaw. It is a brutal, highly measurable physiological reality. Your brain physically consumes its severely limited glucose reserves every single time it exercises willpower, suppresses a negative emotion, or attempts to rationalize a highly complex social situation. By the time evening arrives and you are staring at that glowing phone screen in your silent bedroom, your cognitive battery is completely depleted. The rational executive suite inside your skull is utterly paralyzed. It fundamentally lacks the necessary physical calories required to accurately parse those subtle digital nuances or calmly evaluate why your friends suddenly decided to use a hard period. Your logic center is quite literally starving. It cannot possibly defend you from the rapidly invading anxiety because its defensive walls have already crumbled. You are essentially demanding high-level diplomatic negotiations from a biological sector that has already evaporated. Therefore, when that tiny, ambiguous message finally arrives, your exhausted mind simply cannot process the broader context, leaving you entirely defenseless against a catastrophic emotional tailspin. And when the conscious driver has finally and entirely colopets on a steering wheel, your terrified brain is desperately forced to summon a hidden, shadowy understudy to immediately take over the controls. This shadowy understudy is not a modern innovation. It is an ancient biological survival mechanism residing deep within the evolutionary core of your skull. You have intimately interacted with this unseen entity countless times before without ever realizing its silent, pervasive presence. Have you ever backed your car out of your driveway, successfully navigated through 3 busy intersections, and suddenly felt a terrifying, icy jolt of sheer panic? You frantically wonder if you actually remembered to press the remote to securely close the garage door. Or perhaps you have driven 15 entire miles down a monotonous highway toward your home, completely zoning out, only to abruptly realize that you cannot recall passing a single vehicle along the way. Who was actively steering that heavy metal machine during those last 15 miles while your conscious mind was entirely absent? Think very carefully. It was the basal ganglia. This primitive neurological structure operates as a highly efficient but completely blind caretaker for your constantly overwhelmed brain. When your rational prefrontal cortex inevitably collapses from the exhausting demands of daily social navigation, this quiet entity immediately steps out of the shadows to assume absolute, unquestioned control. It meticulously observes your repetitive daily actions, carefully gathering every complex behavior, from mechanically tying your shoes to aggressively checking your phone for a reassuring reply, and tightly binds them together into a singular sequence. Neuroscientists specifically define this biological process as neural chunking. It completely transforms a tedious sequence of conscious, draining decisions into one unbreakable block of automated muscle memory. The unconscious mind does not evaluate subtle digital context, it does not understand complex emotional nuance, and it certainly does not care about the terrifying anxiety caused by a single period at the end of a text message. It simply executes the deeply ingrained survival program without asking any rational questions. When you stare blankly at your glowing screen, paralyzed by the sudden shift in your friend's digital tone, you are no longer consciously choosing to obsess over their punctuation. You are entirely trapped within a rigid, pre-written behavioral script that is rapidly unfolding without your active consent. The blind car talker is forcefully directing your fingers to scroll, desperately analyzing the microscopic grammatical shifts because it has historically learned that social ambiguity represents a severe threat to your survival. This automated driving mode is undeniably perfect for navigating daily physical routines without collapsing. But for this ruthless, unfeeling machine to truly develop a relentless addiction to deciphering digital microexpressions, it requires a very specific kind of spark. That highly dangerous biological spark is profoundly misunderstood by almost everyone attempting to navigate our modern society. We constantly label it as the ultimate molecule of joy, the comforting chemical reward for a job well done, or the euphoric rush of a genuinely happy moment. But rigorous neurological science reveals a much darker, far more manipulative reality about dopamine. It is absolutely not the hormone of happiness, peace, or genuine satisfaction. It is the ruthless, deeply unsatiable hormone of sheer expectation. To truly understand this agonizing cycle of digital anxiety, you have to look at your most ridiculous, seemingly harmless, everyday habits. Think about how you suddenly stand up from your comfortable couch, slowly walk into the quiet kitchen, and pull open the door of your refrigerator for the 5th time in a single afternoon. You already know exactly what is sitting inside that humming box. You know perfectly well that there is only half a carton of sour milk, a few wilting vegetables, and some leftover eggs. There is absolutely no logical reason to look inside that space again, but your restless brain relentlessly whispers to you, aggressively urging you to pull that handle, tricking you into believing that maybe something incredibly delicious has mysteriously materialized on the empty shelves. You stare at the cold plastic and feel a profound sense of pathetic disappointment. Do you open that refrigerator door because you are actually seeking joy? Not at all. You are simply feeding a biological decachirpin. This exact same pathetic mechanism completely hijacks your exhausted mind when you obsessively stare at that agonizing text message. When your friend sends you that cold, heavily punctuated word, they are violently disrupting your anticipated social reward. You expected a warm, naturally flowing conversation filled with reassuring digital cues, but instead you received a harsh, abrupt grammatical wall. Neurologists specifically define this devastating psychological clash as a reward prediction error. When reality drastically fails to match your brain's highly optimistic projection, your dopamine levels violently crash, leaving behind a terrifying void of social hunger. Your frantic need to meticulously reread their old messages, your desperate urge to analyze every single pixel of that tiny dot, is not a logical quest for emotional resolution. You are acting exactly like the exhausted person staring blankly into the empty refrigerator, desperately hoping the reality of the situation will magically change if you just look at it one more time. You are ruthlessly chasing the ghost of an expectation that was never actually fulfilled, entirely trapped in a hollow loop of meaningless waiting. You deeply hate this endless cycle of digital overthinking and think your brain is broken. You are completely wrong. This behavior is absolutely not a psychological flaw. This exact reaction is a remarkable advanced feature. Your exhausted brain is desperately trying to save you. Nature designed the specific defense mechanism for your protection. You do not have a broken communication system. You actually possess an incredibly sensitive survival instinct. Ancient humans relied on this exact environmental awareness. A sudden change in vocal tone signaled deadly aggression. Missing those microscopic social signals meant certain physical death. Your ancestors survived because they noticed every tiny detail. They passed down this powerful biological radar to you. You inherited a highly attuned emotional intelligence system. This sensitivity is an evolutionary gift from the past. Your mind continuously scans the horizon for hidden threats. That tiny grammatical dot represents a sudden environmental shift. Your ancient brain registers that missing punctuation as danger. It triggers an immediate physiological freeze response within you. This paralysis stops you from making a fatal mistake. The hesitation prevents you from provoking a hostile tribe. Your nervous system demands absolute certainty before moving forward. You are not crazy for overthinking a simple text. You are reading the digital environment with absolute precision. A period changes the entire emotional frequency of text. It creates a harsh barrier in natural human connection. Your brain accurately detects a sudden emotional temperature drop. Most modern people completely ignore these vital social signals. They blindly march forward without reading the subtle room. You possess a much deeper understanding of human nature. You deeply feel the unseen vibrations of social interactions. This intense empathy makes you an exceptional human being. Your profound observation skills are a rare evolutionary advantage. Do not let society label your sensitivity as weakness. Modern society benefits immensely from your profound emotional depth. Your primitive instincts simply want to ensure tribal harmony. This overthinking process is just your brain seeking safety. It desperately wants to keep you securely connected. Your biological hardware is functioning with absolute pristine perfection. You carry the wisdom of 1,000 watchful ancestors. Embrace this magnificent and complex internal warning system today. It proves your incredible capacity for true human connection. Your mind is a beautifully complex instrument of survival. When you finally understand the profound depth of your own sensitive nature, the crushing weight of that endless self-punishment will begin to slowly dissolve into the quiet air, leaving behind a gentle space of pure acceptance, and allowing you to breathe without the heavy burden of assumed guilt. It is entirely possible to step outside of this exhausting cycle of panic, not by forcing yourself to become a cold person, but by simply observing the frantic waves of your anxiety as they rise and fall, washing them with the compassionate eyes of a silent witness, and realizing that you are vastly larger than the fleeting fears constructed by your tired mind. The next time you find yourself staring into the glowing abyss of a silent screen, waiting for a reassurance that may never arrive, I invite you to gently place the device down, close your weary eyes against the artificial light, and physically feel the solid ground beneath your feet, anchoring your wandering spirit back into the peaceful sanctuary of the present moment. There is a profound beauty in learning to detach your internal peace from the unpredictable grammatical choices of others, understanding that a sudden punctuation mark is often just a meaningless reflection of their own chaotic day, completely disconnected from the boundless value you bring to the world, and recognizing that your inherent worth remains perfectly intact regardless of external communication. You must slowly forgive yourself for caring so deeply about the microscopic details of human connection, for treating every interaction as a fragile piece of art that requires your utmost protection, because this beautiful empathy is the exact quality that makes you capable of experiencing profound love, and it is the very reason why people feel so incredibly safe in your presence. As you gently release the rigid demand for absolute certainty in every conversation, you will gradually discover a quiet liberation hiding within the ambiguity. A serene place where you no longer need to exhaustively translate every empty space into a catastrophic scenario, allowing the natural rhythm of relationships to flow organically without the desperate need for constant emotional management. Your mind is not a broken machine that requires constant repairing, but rather a magnificently sensitive instrument that simply needs a moment of profound stillness to recalibrate its delicate strings. A moment to rest in the comforting shadow of your own quiet understanding, and a moment to finally remember that you have always been entirely whole just as you are. Do not walk away from your own depth. The human mind is a vast ocean full of quiet secrets just waiting for you to finally understand them without any harsh judgment, if you are ready to gently peel back these hidden protective layers and face the truth that lives inside you. Please stay right here. Walk closely with me on this beautiful journey down into the silence. Let us decode it, piece by single piece. See you very soon at the next level of human consciousness.